dive in and subscribe to DrPain2Win. Have a good day. Are you a warrior? Hello, we'd like to thank Bringing Tech to You and Take 4 Designs by Connie for sponsoring our educational YouTube channels, DrPain2Win and ProfBlueMusic. Are you a warrior? Train2Reign with Dr. Payne. Wake up, champion athletes! All right, yeah! Take action now in your practices now, today. Hi, everyone. I'd like to introduce Coach Jon Jepsen, originally from Chicagoland region, Indiana, and coach for years. Hey, Coach, I've been meaning to for years to ask you a lot of questions about your life and being a swimming coach. And I know that you're a champion swimmer and that we will talk about that, but what made you make the transition from coaching, from swimming and being a competitive swimmer to coaching?
Wow, that's a good question. I don't know. I just got into it my first year of teaching.
Oh, okay.
They needed an assistant coach to help out with the swim team at Portage High School. And I volunteered for it, and that got me into it. And I just loved doing it. But I saw all kinds of kids swimming with different kind of strokes. And I started reading up and checking into everything I could find on fundamentals.
I see.
And it's really important at that time because nobody was teaching. They were just telling the kids to swim fast.
Just training them, or you're trying to get the yardage in.
Telling them what to do and tell them to hurry up.
So in other words, you became the swimming stroke technician of the area, and your kids saw improvement. How long did it take you, to see that improvement? Immediately, 1 year, and when was your first team championship after that?
I guess that's kind of a hard question to answer.
Yeah, I got 3 questions.
Yeah.
And it's not a quiz, so it's up to you.
Well, as the team improved on their stroke, I found that most of my kids could swim the individual medley or different strokes.
Oh.
So I could mix up the lineup with a lot of different people.
You were stronger on the stroke events then?
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, yeah. And then I read every book I could.
Sure.
I remember Armbruster had a book out, and he was a pretty famous coach in Iowa, I believe. And he had basic plan of training sprinters, middle distance, and over distance. And I took and put all that together with a kid that was going to do one of the above, one of those. So, you just
pinpointed.
Hope everything falls in place.
Sure. Okay, so you obviously found improvement in all the strokes, which gave you a lot of 200 individual medley swimmers, and in time, as history will tell it, I watched, state championship teams, senior state teams. We always won senior state. How long did it take in the Munster programs for you to have a state championship, and what was that first state championship like that year?
Well, we won state for my first championship in 1973. That was my 4th year at Munster.
Okay.
So it took 4 years to put a deep enough team in the state meet to win it.
Okay. So what about the year before? How close were you?
Very. We had a relay disqualified, or I think we would have won it.
Oh.
So we were ready actually the year before, I thought. And when we didn't win it, I knew that most of my team was back, and we'd be stronger the next year.
Disqualification, was it sectionals or state?
state.
Oh, it was a state, so right there. Okay, you knew. Yeah, okay. Huh. I think I knew that. That's really interesting. So, that first state team at the meet, where was it when you first thought you had it, or was it all the way down to the line? Was it a nervous time?
I never really took it for granted.
Ah, there you go.
You just have somebody that's really good at keeping score, and they'd keep you updated.
Okay.
But I just went event by event coaching the kids,
Okay.
talking to them how to do their event. But and I had a rule that they were to see me before their event to go over how they were going to swim.
Sure. Okay. Strategic plans.
Yeah.
At least
Once in a while, I'd have a kid that bypassed me.
Yeah.
And sometimes when they didn't do well, I would analyze why and tell them.
And probably was because they forgot. Meaning forgot to come. Forgot what you told them initially to do.
I had one of the best breaststrokers in the state, and he didn't qualify for state. He just missed the cutoff in the sectional. And he didn't see me before his event. And I knew if he didn't go out fast, he was not going to
Make it.
do his best time. And I knew he was strong enough and trained enough that he could do that. And he went out steady and slow, and he didn't make it.
Didn't get that first split.
Right.
Yeah. Wow. So here it goes. You're telling. Here it goes. You're telling kids what to do on each event, and they're coming to see you and finding out that sometimes in your analysis that they didn't do their best times because of it. So how do you feel about swimmers now are in regards to technique? What do you see in the world these days in regards to that? Our coaches.
Well, the technique improved across the whole Midwest, really.
Okay.
I think all coaches now are teaching the right form.
I don't know if they're teaching. I know a lot of coaches that don't teach still, and it's yardage.
Yeah, I think maybe you're right there, because coaches just don't take it that serious or something, but they're missing the boat. It's like, let's say you have a pitcher on a baseball team and you never teach them how to throw different pitches.
Sure.
But you just tell them to throw.
There you go. That's, wow. Great analysis. Huh. So, Hugh Kuhn, your first state champ, right?
Right.
Well, Hugh had all of the strokes. All the developmental strokes. Did he come to you that way?
Pretty much, because when I started at Munster, I told the age group program the basic rule is to teach fundamentals in the strokes. I would take care of the yardage when they got to high school.
Oh, okay.
But that was basically it. I remember Hugh, he could do all the strokes, and they were pretty solid, very solid. I had him and Mark Wickler at the same time, and Mark could do the strokes very well.
And they were great IMers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe Hugh won the state and Mark got fourth in IM.
That year. Oh, fantastic. So, swimming at Horseman, you swam at Horseman, went to college at Purdue, and then started coaching at Portage, had some success there, and Munster hired you. Was John Friend the gentleman that hired you, or?
He was the AD, yeah.
Yeah, athletic director. And what John recently said to me, and this was not that long ago, I went over and talked to him at Purdue, and that he said, Coach, when Coach Jepsen was here, we had success in the girls and the boys, and we only have one coach over at Munster. What should we do? I said, well, Coach Jepsen helped the girls just as much as he helped the boys. And what's your feeling in regards to that? And your teams, you always had, I know you coached the boys, but you helped the girls along. Was it just one program to you, and everybody's there together? And what was your philosophy?
To teach swimming and coach swimming any boy or girl that wanted it.
Yeah.
I in the summer would train kids from different schools that would come over and join the program for the summer.
Sure.
And I always took pride in the fact that I thought all kids are the same, and I will coach anybody.
Coach Charles was that way too. You know,
Right.
he helped them on the deck, and you know, he said it just made your team better. He goes, you didn't want to give them everything, you know, but it did help your team better because they were diving against better divers.
Right.
Yeah. So you think the challenge of performing against better athletes is key? Any thoughts on that?
Well, you don't back down. You swim the best competition you think you can. We entered a lot of invitational meets, and my thought was, out of all the teams there's going to be an outstanding swimmer from some of the teams.
Sure.
Some team. So let your kids have that competition. Because we went to Illinois, we went to Wisconsin, and you know, it was, and even Iowa. And the challenge was that their best swimmers in those meets would challenge our kids.
Sure. So you come from a swimming family, really. So tell me a little bit about your brothers. Weren't they swimmers?
No.
No? Oh.
No.
Well, they were coaches.
My twin brother,
Okay.
he started teaching, and he got appointed the swimming coach, and he had never coached swimming.
Oh, and he never swam.
And he never swam in high school or college.
Oh, okay.
So we communicated a lot, you know, with each other.
Sure.
And but he had some outstanding kids in teams.
Sure.
In Iowa.
That was Jon Jepsen?
Yeah.
Jon, okay. Sure.
I remember one year in Iowa, his team placed second in his state.
Okay.
So he did the job.
Pushing it, yeah. Fantastic. That's great. I you know, it just seems like you've handed down the teaching of swimming, and it's funny in my coaching. That's why I've been. And I don't know. You must have handed this to me that every kid deserves to be there. Every kid deserves to learn to swim, and every kid has the opportunity to be the best they can, and we're going to help them get along. And lastly, how did you put it? So in other words, every kid was important to you.
It was. And I started drumming up junior varsity meets along with our varsity
I see.
meets.
Yeah.
And the reason was I didn't want kids to be watching our meet and not being participants.
Not participating.
So we got as many kids in swimming competition as we could.
Well, that's key. That's key. I remember a swimmer named Scott Plantinga. And I just remember him coming in. I'm going to talk to you about two swimmers. First, Scott. When Scott came to you, is he somebody that you pulled out of PE classes?
I don't think so.
No?
I think he just came out of
okay.
for the team.
Okay.
Yeah, if I remember right, I'm pretty
As a freshman?
pretty sure. Right.
Okay. And he became very fast and very looked up to swimmer. And then there was Ron Kurz. Now, he was, on the other hand, a PE class kid, right? What's the story of Ron Kurz?
I like to tell that story.
Yeah, okay.
Ron, I didn't ask to come out. I tested the kids in phys ed, and he couldn't swim. He made it 1/3 of the pool, and then
Ron Kurz
and he
couldn't
had
swim.
trouble.
Great swimmer.
And so we had to grab him and pull him out of the pool. At my call-out meeting for the swim team, he's there. And I told him, I said, Ron, you can't swim. I know, but I want to be on the swim team. So I talked to the swim team, and I told them, I need a volunteer to teach Ron to swim. And I told them what to do, and they taught him to swim his freshman year. He goes he was second in state his senior year in the 500.
Sure.
And he went to Purdue and set state records there.
All the a lot of records on the board at Purdue.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. I know. I remember his freshman year, our freshman year, he was under a minute in the 100 free.
Yeah, he improved.
Like 57.
He was natural.
Sure.
He didn't look like an athlete. You know, one of these big physical guys. But when you have that natural ability, you learn things quick.
I see.
And he picked it up pretty quick. And I always thought that when a kid came out for swimming, to improve them as much as you can, and just basically see how good they can get. And each year they can improve more.
Wow. So yeah, so Ron Kurz at first didn't know how to swim, but once he was shown some of the techniques, you saw the ability. The ability was there. Well, that's a really strange perspective. He couldn't swim, and then you tell me now that he was a natural swimmer. How many kids like that do we lose? Because they
Well, to be
there's not too many kids like that.
realistic, when you have your swim team, you take the rest of the population of the school, and there's probably kids walking the halls that are just as good of swimmers, could be just as good as what
Sure.
you have.
Yeah. So you need to test them all for a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would take my swim classes, and when we had free swim, I'd watch who dove on the diving board and ask those kids to come out for diving. I watched the kids that looked good in the pool, and I would send a letter home with them and the divers. I'd give them a letter inviting them out for the swim team.
I see. I remember that.
So I called them my PE kids.
Yeah.
And that gave us great depth.
Sure. Well, depth was it. Obviously having some success with the Munster program, you had started the program, the age group program, right? Tell us a little bit about that. How did that help your high school program?
Well,
what year did you start the Munster age group team? Or who did it?
they had the age group team, the swim club, before I went to Munster.
I see.
So all I did was sit down with all the coaches, and John Friend brought them all in, and we got together and explained to them that one was going to work with the other. And the community lesson program was going to teach little kids to swim. And as they developed in the swim program, you gave them an invitation after they were certain ability to come out for the swim club. And then the swim club would bring them along until they got to high school, and then we wanted them to go to the swim team in high school.
Well, I know you felt there's such a tradition at Munster, and it's like a big family. Even the people that are out of the, are having their kids swim for the program, and that. How did that all come about? Was that just because of the success, or was that something you implemented?
Well, you try to build a lot of pride.
Okay.
I mean, that's something you have to tell the kids. I was realistic, though. I would tell my team that don't get looking down at an opponent, because they're just like you. They're out there trying their best, and especially when you win against them, they're not looking for you to be smart alecks. They know that you are better, but let them soak that in. Don't rub it in.
Don't rub it in. Well, that's great, because I know that Munster won a lot of championships, sent a lot of kids to college, a lot of kids Olympic trial qualifiers, went into the NC2As, age group nationals. There was a lot of accolades. The tradition is still alive there. Built the new pool, named it after you, Coach Jepsen. And how do you feel that the program, how do you feel after all of the success?
Just very proud of what Munster accomplished. And I fully believe this. I never won state. The swim team won state.
There you go.
It was them and what they did. And I'll never forget in 1974 we had such a dominant team. And after every event, the kids would go over to the scorer's table and the state trophy was there, and they'd move it over towards our bench, a little bit at a time. And that was kind of neat.
That's awesome.
Wow.
What other memories do you have in regards to maybe when you talk to a kid before an event or after a state meet, or your thoughts on, you know, after you won a state, what you're going to do for the next year, or any thoughts on championship focus that you gave out?
Well, you never took it for granted. You go into the state meet, and you're awful aware of anything can happen. In 1978, we had the team that they should have won state quite a bit ahead of anybody, and the whole team started getting sick, and they had the flu, and we went in there. I had the best 200 and 100 swimmer in the state, and I had to scratch them from the meet. So in my medley relay, when they started off the meet, they were like 4 seconds slower than they were in the qualifying meet, the sectional.
Just because they were sick.
They were, they were beat. And so we just weren't in it. So you prepare for everything.
Sure. It's kids, and you never know what's going to happen also.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You've had some great swimmers, like maybe Jason Gedman for the challenges in diving. What are some things that you remember about those winning races? Maybe the fastest 50 freestyle. What do you tell your? How about this? What do you tell your sprinters?
Well, I think the number one thing I finally figured out was when they hit the water and they start swimming, they want to go as fast as they can go. But you have to tell them to press the water and feel it. Doesn't matter how fast your arms
at the beginning
are
of the stroke, at the beginning of the race.
When you take your first stroke, feel the water, and they just took off on that start. I mean, it was great.
Okay, so in other words, get your feel for the water,
right,
and then turn it on.
Well, yeah, after your first 2 arm pulls, you should be in high gear.
Okay. But if you're over, in other words, get the feel of the water first so you don't overswim it.
Right.
Or you miss the catches.
Well, you've seen swimmers, and you look at them and they're spinning their wheels, we used to say.
Sure.
And they're just slipping on the water. They want to pull too fast instead of press. And that's very important.
I gotcha. That's your sprinters. Huh. You told me some things about backstrokers, too, because like when we were coaching together and we would talk, it was one thing with Michael Gonzalez, who was a surprise state champion. Do you remember some things about that? Or what about backstroke?
Teaching fundamentals of all the strokes, I always felt backstroke was one of the hardest for them to actually do it right.
Understand.
Because there was a lot to it.
Uh-huh.
And most people want to either pull straight to the side or pull too deep. And so you have to get the pressure on that too. Very important that they press the water, they make their catch, and they follow through.
Okay, but don't take it too deep and don't take it straight out to the side because you're missing the stroke.
Right.
Gotcha. So backstrokers, remember that. I know there was one thing that you taught me also. The same thing was almost like the sprinters. Get off the start and get in, and that first pull it can't be pressing out. You have to get in and get that catch and set it up first.
Right.
And I've won a lot of 50-meter backstroke on the medley relay with that. Getting them set it up. You know, yeah, that was huge. I thank you for that. So you said backstroke is a tough stroke, to teach, and I understand where you're coming from because kids can't understand the leverage point of it. But breaststroke and butterfly, that's the big one. People have a hard time teaching, and predominantly. What's your call on those two strokes, their similarities and what you teach?
Well, I agree with you on the breaststroke. That's just 1/10 of a second behind teaching backstroke.
Okay.
It's very difficult, and over the years they changed it.
Sure.
It used to be the heart-shaped pattern.
Yeah.
And now the breaststrokers come up so far out of the water and dive it forward, and that's a very hard thing for a breaststroker to do. They have to be super strong.
Okay.
And to teach it, they'll go into that stroke and they can't hold it that long. And they go back to the basic one, but you hope they can handle it later and get it that way through the whole race.
Right. Okay, so now you're saying instead of a diamond shape, it's more of an out sweep, in sweep, and drive.
Right, and you still have to have the high elbows.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. Right. That has never changed. The high elbow catch, the early catch, and you know what? I watched so many kids that came to me from other clubs and this and that, and that's all I really needed to teach them, to make them great right away. Or kids coming from 8th grade into freshman year.
Right.
Get that early catch. I mean, especially girls. If you can get a girl with early catch, huge. Because usually they're not strong enough to do it anyways.
Yeah, breaststroker has to be strong.
Yeah, okay.
And I remember Don Gamble, or Gramble, can't remember his last
Gambril,
name.
Gambril.
But he was talking at the state clinic one time, and I asked him, I said, how do you get the breaststrokers to sprint faster? And he said, make them stronger. And that applies because they have to be strong to carry that stroke.
The way people always say butterfly is the most impossible stroke. But you taught me how to make it, instead of butter struggle, to be easy, throwing things forward. And, then I learned it from Bill Boomer, that everything's from not so much staying down low, but releasing and throwing forward. And I'd never heard that from anybody. I heard it from you, and then I'd heard him teach it the other way, pressing down, and I always went back to your way and had success with that. Then I heard it from Bill Boomer, and that was it. So what can you tell me about butterfly? Why were you so early in understanding throwing the stroke forward?
Well, I realized watching them that when they would come over, they would immediately on hitting the water, they would press down. They would just hit instead of reaching out and stretching forward before they pulled.
I gotcha.
And that's the only time on butterfly that you're going to get to rest.
Right.
You just have that split-second rest, but you don't just power in a circle and just go as fast as you can.
And keep going is what you're saying. There's got to be. So, everybody says, well, there's a glide on the breaststroke. You get a little rest there. You know what I'm saying? But on the fly, there is a stretch. And you're right. If they're jamming it down and not finishing their stroke, they're not getting any rest.
Right. No doubt about it.
Huh. So how important is the butterfly kick?
Extreme. Especially nowadays with the underwater shoving, dolphin kick or fishtail, whatever you want to call it. They found that is faster than swimming.
Kicking.
Just the kicking by itself.
The swimming slows you down.
Yeah, but it comes down to the fact that butterfly is rhythm. It's rhythm.
Okay.
And if you don't have the rhythm, you'll tire.
You'll tire.
You'll tire out.
Yeah, the age-old. I watch a lot of videos nowadays, and swimmers complaining about the tiredness of butterfly sets and this and that. But see, I think that hey, if it's something you want to do it's something you want to do, and you should enjoy it. And you know, you worked us out hard, and you worked out your programs hard. How did you keep everybody so motivated and sticking with it, even in the times of, time of the season in January when nobody's happy and nobody's friends because they're so tired?
Well, I think a lot has to do with the team being a unit. I always said that the best teams I coached, they were friends. They got along good. They talked during practice. They got a kick out of
being there,
helping the others get good, and took it as part of their responsibility to help everybody else on the team if they could.
Awesome. Yeah, I felt that. I felt that. I felt it was that way with the coaches. The way you let us do. I worked with Tom Reese a long time, and I worked with Eric Krieger at the end there. And when I was with that, and now Matt Lee, and I always felt that there's a tradition of everybody's out. And there's no egos going on. Everybody's just helping everyone. Troy Rexner was that way. We were all, and Jerry Kroll. And Jerry was one of my guiding lights. I think I would have quit swimming if it wasn't for Jerry Kroll. But I just want to state that Jerry Kroll was a great man and pushed people hard beyond their all expectations, like Coach did here. So I think you might have had something to do with that with Jerry too. But thank you very much, Mr. Kroll. We love you. So I know that you were a swimmer way before you were coaching high school kids. And what high school did you go to, and what got you involved with swimming way back when, and what did you do?
I went to Gary Horace Mann.
Horace Mann.
And they were one of the few teams in the state that had a pool and swim team. My junior year, I had played basketball freshman and sophomore year. In my junior year, just right at the start of practice, I was cut.
Okay.
I wasn't a very big person. And I had a friend that was a very close friend that was a diver on the swim team.
What was his name? Do you remember?
Bill Dorn.
Bill Zorn?
Dorn.
Bill Dorn, okay.
And Bill wanted me to come out for swimming, and I went out for the team. And I remember the very first practice, a senior, Larry Walker, came up to me and said, "I'm going to teach you breaststroke.
Okay.
We need breaststrokers." And so he was a breaststroker, and he taught me breaststroke.
Huh.
And he placed in the top 6 in state, so he was very good. But he taught me the frog kick in those days. And when I look back, I realized as I started coaching, nobody taught me how to make a turn. So I was terrible on turns.
Sure.
But anyway, our high school team, my junior year, won the state championship.
Okay, you're right.
And
First year. There you go.
Right. And
Huh.
it was kind of neat.
Yeah.
And then I think we got 3rd in state my senior year.
So what was your junior year? What year would that be that you guys won state?
1953.
With Gary Horace Mann, 1953.
Yes.
Huh, okay. I had a guy come out for senior games, big, tall, lanky guy that won some freestyle state championships. Forgot what his name is, but he was in that era too. I think he won the 100 free in 1956. That would have been a little bit later than that. Yeah, but so you won state your junior year, you got 3rd your senior year, and I think you did some long distance swimming in Lake Michigan. At one time, you told me you and a friend you were gonna cross Lake Michigan or something, or
we played with the idea and trained for it. Just we wanted to give it a try.
Yeah.
And we actually did a 4-mile swim in Lake Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
And Lake Michigan's very cold. So if you're going to swim across Lake Michigan, we were going to try from Chicago to Gary, Indiana. You put this lanolin all over your body, like lard.
Yeah.
And to protect you from.
I do remember that back when.
And we were ready to lather up and everything, and then the boat had engine trouble, and it was over.
It was over. Oh, okay, okay.
And we waited till the last part of the summer, and then the wavy weather kicked in, and that was our shot.
I see.
But,
Well, Matt Lee got married on the president coach of Munster Swim Club got married on the Gary Beach. I don't know if you know that. He got married at Marquette Park on the beach.
that's where I was a lifeguard.
Yeah. Oh, you were a
yeah.
lifeguard at Marquette?
Yeah.
Wow. And so Gary Horseman was the only Gary club that had a team at the time?
No, actually, there were 8 high schools in Gary at the time. And I remember at least 4, maybe 5 of them had swim teams.
Oh, I see.
But Gary was a progressive system. They had Horace Mann had a 20-yard 4-lane pool for the boys and the same thing for the girls.
Oh, 2 pools. Separated.
2 pools, which was unusual.
Wow.
But, you know, another thing I realized, excuse me, I played baseball in college and high school, and nobody ever taught me how to pitch. Not one word about throwing a curve or a fastball or anything. Just pitch.
No teaching.
That was
Yeah.
it. So that helped my idea of what to do too.
So that a coach needs to also be a teacher. Yeah.
Definitely.
Pass on the knowledge. Wow. Well, over the years, I've coached for many years now, and I've always thought myself as a teacher, and people come to me, and sometimes they look and they say, wow, you're missing out on yardage, but I'm also known as the person that puts kids too much yardage. So sometimes you can win, sometimes you lose. You just put it all together, and hopefully it comes out. So how did you balance that technique and yardage? Because we went huge amounts of yardage. Was it just was Munster the first team to go double workouts, do some weight training? What was the phenomenon?
No, when I went to Munster, I knew that Indianapolis Aquatic Club
Okay.
had swimmers that could win state, but they refused to let the kids swim high school. They had to be swim club.
Oh, it was, okay.
And I knew they were going double practices, and I thought I better look into this.
Okay.
And so when I realized that the top programs in California and different areas, Michigan and Ohio, were very, very strong in swimming, that they were going doubles. So I remember setting the team down and asking them if they wanted to try the top-notch program. And I said, before you answer, I'm going to tell you what it'll take. I said, we're going mornings and we're going after school. And that's just the way it'll be. And I remember the kids my first year of doing that, I had a morning practice when we had a very important meet.
Oh.
And I remember the kids telling me the day before, Coach, we need to rest up. I said, you're going to win it by morning practice or nothing. And we won.
Yeah. So what was your biggest winning streak of a dual meet?
We said, at that time, a state record of 104 meets in a row.
Okay.
And then we had winning streaks of 66 and 44. So those were the 3 longest.
I thought you went 152. No? Am I wrong with that?
You're wrong.
I'm wrong. 104?
104.
104. Well, I've been bragging wrongly. But anyways.
Well.
104.
Yeah.
Wow. I was at Ball State the year that we won the meet by 1 point. And I was there, and I looked at you during the breaststroke, and I said, wow, this is going to be tough to win. We might not win this. And you looked at me, and you said something like, don't ever say that. And at that point, it was either win the 400 free relay or lose the meet. What were your thoughts?
Well, you have to realize South Bend Riley qualified first in that relay in the trials, and we were 5th.
5th, okay. That's what I want to know.
And
what happened?
We didn't have the points that if we didn't beat Riley, and if we were going to have to win the event. in order to win state. We didn't win the event. We got second. But South Bend Riley fell to fifth.
Fifth.
And I had Lloyd Lindquist, Mr. Lindquist,
Yeah.
as scorekeeper.
Okay.
And he looked at me and he said, we won this by 1. He said, 1 point.
Lloyd.
Yep.
Lloyd's dad? That was Lloyd's dad?
No.
Lloyd. Actual Lloyd.
Actual Lloyd.
Oh, okay, Lloyd.
Mr. Lindquist, yeah.
1 point me. I remember that feeling, how great it was. And just as great as the first state championship, and just as great as every single individual state championship. So having 1 point, championships by numerous points, hundreds, and winning by 1 point. So bringing the Munster Swim Club into light, and all the swimmers understanding that we needed to train twice a day. And I remember the exact thing happening where a bunch of the swimmers went over to Gavitt, and then we practiced after school from 3 to like 5 o'clock, and then you bust the rest of us over thinking that at least we're there if we're losing the meet.
Right.
And then a couple of us came out of the stands, and we won the meet. Or I was, already swimming, but there were we pulled a couple of the summer kids out just, to win the meet and make sure we kept our streak in line. What was your philosophy there? I mean, practicing kids in the morning the meet, practicing kids in the afternoon before a meet. I mean, how did that build their strength? How was that a positive, tearing them down so much? How did that help at the end of the season?
Well, when it comes time to do the taper, you have to give the body time to rebuild. And once you start doing less yardage and really backing off, the body is trying to build all through the season, and they're not doing the job. In other words, they're still getting worn down.
Sure.
But when you rest up, the body says, hey, I can build back up now. And you get a tremendous increase in strength.
So it's a physiological change.
Yes.
I see. So taper, what does that word exact in a couple words, what does that mean? I mean, if to a non-person that doesn't understand, trying to win a state championship or peaking for the meet.
Well, to keep it simple, you don't work as hard.
Okay.
You cut down the amount of yardage you're doing, and you start canceling some morning practices. You just let the swimmers rest.
What about the technique during that time?
Well, if they don't know it by then, you're in trouble.
It's in the computer, in other words. Okay. Yeah. Don't change anything at the last minute, just let it happen. So, what was, I know there were probably a couple swimmers out there that you had to, what you call, taper differently. Can you name some of them and tell me the things that you ended up doing, and how did you know what to do?
Well, I didn't distinguish too much between everybody on the team as far as the taper goes.
Sure.
I did have to make adjustments in some cases. Jason Gedman had trained so hard.
Okay.
He went into swimmer's fatigue, and I had read about it. And his eyes were sunk. He couldn't hardly function. I remember in our last dual meet in the butterfly, he went 56 seconds.
Okay.
And got beat.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like he wasn't trying.
Sure.
And I told him, I said, Jason, here's the deal. No mornings. When you start feeling bad in practice, get out. And he couldn't go 2,000 yards in practice without getting out. And this was 4 weeks out from the sectional. And I kept that pattern, and I just said, you got to recover.
Okay.
You're fatigued. You have to recover. and he didn't do hardly anything for 4 weeks. The week of the sectional, we went into the trials, and he went in the 50, and his time dropped. And he told me, he got out of the pool, and he says, "Hey, that felt pretty good, Coach." And I thought, we're there.
Next week we're going crazy.
So he won the fly. Then next week at state, he won it.
Sure.
And he qualified 5th, but in the finals he came back and won it.
The fly and the 50 free?
Yeah, the 50 free.
Yeah.
In the 50 free, if he hadn't missed his turn,
What?
and he had washed out his his contacts.
Oh.
He lost his contacts, and he had to swim with goggles without contacts and couldn't see the wall that well. He had a body length at the 25, and he flipped, and he came out dead even with everybody because he missed the wall until he got his feet
And he
out.
still went 20 point?
And he just took off and left the field again.
Ah.
And he still went 20 point.
Wow. Oh, Coach, I did not know that. I didn't know he washed out his turn, Jason. Wow. So, okay, so he wanted to stay on that. I know that, I just remember John Berkey, named John Berkey, and I coached him, when he was a kid, but he was a great IMer for us, and he had difficulties in the same thing, overtraining or, later in his life, junior and senior year. Right?
His junior year, he came down with some kind of I won't say disease, but it was something wrong with him.
Okay.
And it meant early fatigue.
Oh.
And so I couldn't train him that hard. And we had an understanding when he just felt fatigued in practice to the point where it was getting to him, he was to get out.
Yeah, okay.
And we went through that his junior year and his senior year.
Oh, okay.
But he still got second in the IM his senior year.
Right. Against a tough swimmer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that boy from Carmel.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember his name now. He's from England, I think. So coaches, remember, if your kids are fatigued, put them in a situation like Coach has done for years. Put them in a situation where, tell them, the athlete, go until, you start feeling fatigued so that you don't wear down further. It's almost a pre-taper thing for some kids that are burnt out, especially heavy muscle kids.
Right. I found that the kids that are heavy muscle seem to need more time to recover than the thin ones.
Okay.
And I don't know if that's
well
feasible or
I've
not.
gone with that because you talked to me about that, with my kids. I had a boy, Andy Wheeler, that I let him rest. He ended up resting the whole season because he had a shoulder problem, but I think it was because he was wiped out too. He trained so hard.
Right.
So, you pinpoint some of these ideas in regards to resting athletes, which is a huge situation because you always want to do what's called peak for the meet. Be there. The divers even I talked to Matt Chelich about, he said, go in there and don't do as many dives. Same thing. Taper for it. So this day and age with kids, some teams are looking at it, all we're doing is sprinting and we're not doing much yardage. But then there are the teams that are just still pounding out the yardage. As a coach, where would you stand? Would you start dividing your teams individually, saying, here's my sprinters, here's my... What would you do?
Like I said, I didn't distinguish that much.
Right.
I judged an awful lot of how tired a swimmer was.
Okay.
But, yeah, the basic feeling was what Doc Councilman did in his taper. 10 days out from the state meet,
Okay.
it would totally start resting. They didn't do hardly any yardage at all compared to what they were doing.
Sure.
And I felt that we should taper sooner than that. So what I did, instead of trying to make all kinds of adjustments, I knocked down the morning practices.
I just took off the mornings.
And
Okay.
kept the afternoons hard.
I see.
And then when we got to that
10 days,
that's when I went into that taper.
I see. Well, there obviously there's your scientific formula, which is just Put them to bed, right? Put them to rest. Yeah. I remember it's a good feeling to feel rested. I know the kids look forward to it. I know the athletes thrive from it. But what happens in a situation? Okay, I'm gonna go. So when you're in a tight dual meet, what would you say? What would you say to your kids at that point? What would motivate them?
Well, first of all, I think you need to know your opponent. I would definitely know pretty much what the opponents were going to put out for a lineup. And I would judge my entries according to that. And it worked more often than not.
Strategic thinking.
Right.
Okay. Planning. I rarely saw you change an event, a kid in an event, because so you already had planned out pretty heavily and said if you stuck with it, it was going to work.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember one time one of my swimmers, I think it was Todd Atwood, he looked at me and he said, "How do you know the score before we swim?" And I said, "I'm predicting. We'll see how close." And,
yeah, because you used to tell us what it was going to possibly be a lot of times.
Right.
Yeah. Huh. And I do the same thing, for sure. So, what was the toughest point in all your coaching where you came to it before a meet? What was one of the toughest meets? And what did you say to the kids? Do you recall anything, like a specific meet?
Well, we went against South Bend Adams one year, and they were one of the top. Well, I think they got second in state that year.
Mm-hmm.
And we went into their pool, and I remember Coach Smith came over and told me, he said, "We've tapered for the meet, so it ought to be a good one."
Oh.
And I told my kids in the locker room, I said, "They're tapered." I said, "Here's what we do. We swim and do our best and see how close we can come to them if they happen to beat us. And then we'll judge what's going to happen
at the state
when we
meet.
taper." I said, "But if we can win this meet now, put it in your thoughts that we can beat them."
Down the road at the
Right.
state meet. And they went second in the state. You won it? We won it?
Right. But we won that dual meet.
Right.
And Scott Sutter looked at me and I says, "Scott, you can beat this guy, and if not, it's going to be close, but you'll beat him in state."
Uh-huh.
And he got out-touched on the 50,
Uh-huh.
but he won, or got second in state, and that kid didn't beat him.
I see. Huh. That's Scott Sutter, yeah. So that was the South Bend Riley meet. I remember something of a race where we had 3 fast 100 guys against a kid named Scott Jessup. Do you remember something in regards to that?
Oh yeah, South Bend Riley.
South Bend Riley?
Or I'm
Jackson?
trying to think.
Jackson?
Jackson.
South Bend Jackson? Yeah.
At the time, it
Yeah.
might have been.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was a state champ his junior year
Okay.
in the 100, and I remember Bob Mueller was anchoring our relay against them at South Bend, and he took off just a shade after Jessup
Oh.
to anchor both relays, and I thought, we're going to lose this.
Yeah.
And when they flipped a turn, Bob had caught them. They were dead even. And then Bob pulled out a little in front of them on the second length, and he held through the whole thing. And when he finished, he looked at me and he says, "I knew I could beat him, Coach." And that's what I wanted out of a swimmer.
Okay. To do more than they. Well, he had obviously had that instilled in him, and yeah. So, in other words, I apologize. So on that race, you had instilled the fact. You found out in that meet at South Bend meet that they had tapered. And here it is, you turn it around on a team and let your team know that. I mean, to me, if I would be sitting there and you said, oh my God, they tapered, and then I would be sitting there going, oh no, we're going to lose because they've tapered. But how did you present that? I mean, you just told me kind of, but how did you present that so that they wouldn't go, oh dear God, you know, how did you present that so they weren't just saying, oh God, we're going to lose?
Well, after I told them that we're going to see how close we can come to them, I also said, but I think we can beat them.
So it was more of a challenge.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you set you thought setting the challenge was probably a better incentive.
I found there was a phenomenon in swimming with your team when you'd go against another team that we knew we were better. And the kids wouldn't perform to the best of their ability.
Okay.
And at the diving break, I would talk to them in the locker room and explain to them that they're not doing well. Whether we can beat them or not is not the point. You're going for time now. And that's what you go for. And something else, I like to tell parents this, and the kids knew it. You put 6 kids up on a starting block for a race. 5 are going to lose. 5 are going to lose. You better be able to handle the kids that are going to lose. That's very important.
Ah. So that's where you offset the glory, you know, and brought it back that the future could be brighter or whatever, huh?
And I wanted my kids, when they weren't swimming their event in a meet, to watch the other kids in their events. I didn't allow them putting earplugs in their ears and playing music, and I thought it took them out of the meet.
Huh.
And this meet is not just for you.
Right, I see.
We're a team. See what your teammates are doing.
So this day in media, where the kids are walking around completely, you know, inside themselves.
Right.
Huh. They're not a team then. They're really, yeah, they're not, because they're only working about themselves individually.
At that time, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That's a good perspective. I think that's a great perspective, since especially now when, you know, it comes down to you watch the NC2As and they're so close in the high school meets. It's so tough to get in the top 16 that maybe you need to look at the team aspect of it. Wow, I appreciate that very much. So we're talking with Coach Jepsen at his home in Tennessee. And you've been living in Tennessee for 20 years now, and made the transition over here and seen some fast swimming out of the state and everything. And we've dedicated a pool to him at Munster, a fantastic sports arena. And the program still has the great Jepsen Challenge tradition of excellence, the tradition of winning, and mostly the tradition of making sure that we send some kids out into the world and great athletes and great in society, great businessmen, and great people. But Coach, you've handed down that tradition, and it's been there for years. When you first went to Munster, I'm talking right with, and I know that you were a PE teacher with Coach Nixick. I was scared to death of both of you, but you put out this love of training, and within 6 weeks, I grew to love reaching the Payne barrier. And I don't know where that came from. To this day, I love doing it, and it was something that you instilled in us. How did you instill driving through the Payne barrier? Like Don Scholander always said, you have to get to pink, and then get to black, and you almost black out, and then you win. Well, I didn't get that, because if you blacked out in the water, you were going too fast, you know, but that was his perspective. How did you get kids to drive through the Payne barrier?
That's a pretty tough one. I think the only thing you can do is keep telling them you can do this.
I see.
You know, be positive. If they're falling short, you have to accept it. You don't criticize them. You tell them they can pick it up or they can do better. And if they can't do it for that practice, they'll do it better next time. whatever you do, you just keep encouraging them.
Encouragement. Sure. Okay, so you were a teacher and taught the techniques. You encouraged them to push themselves beyond, what they could. And then at that point, it came to the athlete that came to you that day and said, I can't do it any further at this time. Where did you go with that? If I'm sitting there going, Coach, I can't do it any further today. Did you test them further, or what was it? Or did you watch the days to come and see what it was up?
I remember only one swimmer telling me I can't do these practices, I quit.
Oh, quit.
And he was sectional champ the year before, and very good swimmer. And I couldn't talk him out of quitting. So I lost him.
Sure.
The team lost him.
Yeah.
And you take and accept what happens, but I felt bad for the team, not because of me. The team could have used him.
Sure.
And the surprising thing is he was a senior and he still went to college on a scholarship.
Swimming?
And for swimming off his junior year times.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
the first I've heard of something like that happening.
Right.
Especially in this day and age when they're not giving out scholarships, I mean, I've had some state champs that only get half rides, they even test them their first year. So you had a lot of kids go to college and swim. And, what was the effect of our training? What did you hear from the college coaches about the swimmers that you had? I don't know what that was. So you sent a lot of kids to college. And what did you hear back from the college coaches about how good your kids were, or how trained your kids were, or how developed they were?
Well, it's amazing. I never got much communication from the college coaches. And I remember one swimmer, an outstanding state champ for me, went to a very outstanding college program.
Okay.
And he told me, he said, the coach just before a meet tells us to get in there and warm up, and that's the only thing he tells us. And we do it on our own. He said, so I started doing what we did in high school for warm-up. He said, and all the kids on the team asked me what I was doing. So I directed them and taught them what we were doing, and that was our warm-up.
Wow.
So it amazed me. And then another kid was right there, and this is during Christmas break. He was going to one of the top schools in college, and he said, that's amazing because it happened to me and my team, same thing.
He was teaching his team the warm-up.
Yeah, he said the coaches just tell us to do it, nothing else.
So in other words, they're supposed to know what to do or whatever.
Right. Oh,
Wow.
yeah, the talent's here, and it'll take care of itself.
Take care of itself. Wow. Huh. That's very interesting. Well, looking back, looks like you taught some kids, taught some college coaches some things to do. I'm really surprised to hear that you hadn't gotten any input back from the college coaches. So, swimming at Horseman, you swam at Horseman, went to college at Purdue, and then started coaching at Portage, had some success there, and Munster hired you. Was John Friend the gentleman that hired you, or?
He was the AD, yeah.
Yeah, athletic director. And what John recently said to me, and this was not that long ago, I went over and talked to him at Purdue, and that he said, Coach, when Coach Jepsen was here, we had success in the girls and the boys, and we only have one coach over at Munster. What should we do? I said, well, Coach Jepsen helped the girls just as much as he helped the boys. And what's your feeling in regards to that? In your teams, you always had, I know you coached the boys, but you helped the girls along. Was it just one program to you, and everybody's there together? And what was your philosophy?
To teach swimming and coach swimming to any boy or girl that wanted it.
Yeah.
I in the summer would train kids from different schools
Right,
that would
yes.
come over and join the program for the summer.
Sure.
And I always took pride in the fact that I thought all kids are the same, and I will coach anybody.
Coach Charles was that way too. You know,
Right.
he
Oh,
helped
yeah.
them on the deck, and you know, he said it just made your team better. He goes, you didn't want to give them everything, you know, but it did help your team better because they were diving against better divers.
Right.
Yeah. So you think the challenge of performing against better athletes is key? Any thoughts on that?
Well, you don't back down. You swim the best competition you think you can. We entered a lot of invitational meets, and my thought was, out of all the teams there's going to be an outstanding swimmer from some of the teams.
Sure.
Some team. So let your kids have that competition. Because we went to Illinois, we went to Wisconsin, and you know, it was, and even Iowa. And the challenge was that their best swimmers in those meets would challenge our kids.
Sure. So you come from a swimming family, really. So tell me a little bit about your brothers. Weren't they swimmers?
No.
No? Oh.
No.
Well, they were coaches.
My twin brother,
Okay.
he started teaching, and he got appointed the swimming coach, and he had never coached swimming.
Oh. And he never swam.
And he never swam in high school or college.
Oh, okay.
So we communicated a lot, you know, with each other.
Sure.
And but he had some outstanding kids in teams
Sure.
in Iowa.
That was Jon Jepsen?
Yeah.
Jon, okay. Sure.
He I remember one year in Iowa, his team placed second in his state.
Okay.
So he did the job.
Pushing it, yeah. Fantastic. That's great. I you know, it just seems like you've handed down the teaching of swimming, and it's funny in my coaching. That's why I've been. And I don't know. You must have handed this to me that every kid deserves to be there. Every kid deserves to learn to swim, and every kid has the opportunity to be the best they can, and we're going to help them get along. And lastly, how did you put it? So in other words, every kid was important to you.
It was. And I started drumming up junior varsity meets along with our varsity
I see.
meets.
Yeah.
And the reason was I didn't want kids to be watching our meet and not being participants.
Not participating.
So we got as many kids in swimming competition as we could.
Well, that's key. That's key. I remember a swimmer named Scott Plantiga. And I just remember him coming in. I'm going to talk to you about two swimmers. First, Scott. When Scott came to you, is he somebody that you pulled out of PE classes?
I don't think so.
No?
I think he just came out
okay.
for the team.
Okay.
Yeah, if I remember right, I'm pretty
As a freshman?
pretty sure. Right.
Okay. And he became very fast and very looked up to swimmer. And then there was Ron Kurz. Now, he was, on the other hand, a PE class kid, right? What's the story of Ron Kurz?
I like to tell that story.
Yeah, okay.
Ron, I didn't ask to come out. I tested the kids in phys ed, and he couldn't swim. He made it 1/3 of the pool, and then
Ron Kurz couldn't
had
swim.
trouble.
Great swimmer.
And so we had to grab him and pull him out of the pool. At my call-out meeting for the swim team, he's there. And I told him, I said, Ron, you can't swim. I know, but I want to be on the swim team. So I talked to the swim team, and I told them I need a volunteer to teach Ron to swim. And I told them what to do, and they taught him to swim his freshman year. He was second in state his senior year in the 500.
Sure.
And he went to Purdue and set state records there.
all the a lot of records on the board at Purdue.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. I know. I remember his freshman year. Our freshman year, he was under a minute in the 100 free.
Yeah, he improved.
Like 57.
He was natural.
Sure.
He didn't look like an athlete. You know, one of these big physical guys, but when you have that natural ability, you learn things quick.
I see.
And he picked it up pretty quick. And I always thought that when a kid came out for swimming, to improve them as much as you can, and just basically see how good they can get. And each year they can improve more.
Wow. So yeah, so Ron Kurz at first didn't know how to swim, but once he was shown some of the techniques, you saw the ability. The ability was there. That's a really strange perspective. He couldn't swim, and then you tell me now that he was a natural swimmer. How many kids like that do we lose because they?
Well, to be realistic,
there's not too many kids like that.
Realistic,
Yeah.
when you have your swim team, you take the rest of the population of the school, and there's probably kids walking the halls that are just as good of swimmers. It could be just as good as what
Sure.
you have.
Yeah. So you need to test them all for a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would take my swim classes, and when we had free swim, I'd watch who dove on the diving board and ask those kids to come out for diving. I watched the kids that looked good in the pool, and I would send a letter home with them and the divers. I'd give them a letter inviting them out for the swim team.
I see. I remember that.
So I called them my PE kids.
Yeah.
And that gave us great depth.
Sure. Well, depth was it. 15 seconds? Oh, I stopped that. I must have stopped that. So depth was it. So you pull these kids out of the PE classes. I remember a sectional where, let me know about, I think you're going to remember the sectional where we took like 1, 2, 3. How far deep did we do that? I mean, on your best sectional championship.
Every event but one.
1, 2, 3?
1, 2, 3. Ron Winnick was not third.
Okay.
And he missed the state cutoff. And the whole team felt bad.
Sure.
Because he's the number one a senior that didn't make the cutoff.
Sure.
But
wow, we went 1, 2, 3 in the sectional, every event except one,
right.
and won the relays.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah.
And
What year? 75? So no, 76, 74.
I can't recall.
Well, Winnicus graduated in 1974.
Yeah, it had
Yeah.
to be it.
Yeah, yeah.
But we were very, very strong that year. We set state record for a 12-place scoring system of 250 points.
Wow.
And
Okay.
that's the most anybody ever did. So that record holds because it's 16 places now.
Okay. Speaking of 16, that figure folds in my mind. The 400 free relay. State record, I think was, I might be off of this, 320.9 or 321.9. We go and set the record right after that. And I don't know if that was it. Tell me a little bit about that, setting the 400 free record and then how fast it got. And you remember what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
We set the state record that year. We went 3:16.
Okay.
So we set the state record by 4 seconds.
Yes. Okay.
The next year, there were other teams that swam 3:16. And it's amazing. Whatever you do, somebody's going to come back and do it next time.
So once it's so hard to get done,
Right,
then it becomes easier.
right. I remember when the medley relay was 140, and we set the state record that year, 137. And next year, 137 was like 6th qualifying time.
Okay. So swimming, athletes just keep, reaching the challenge. That's what it comes down to. Once it's been reached, it's easier to get to. That's, hey, down through the ages. Well, we can't get to 0 in times. And Caleb Dressel is going 37 for the 100-yard freestyle. And tell me a little bit about, I'm going to go. Tell me a little bit about your fastest swimmer ever.
I always compare that to somebody asking you who's the best swimmer you ever coached.
I gotcha.
There is no fastest swimmer ever.
Okay.
You pick out butterfly, backstroke, breaststroke, freestyle, and the fastest kid, yes, in each one of those strokes.
Okay.
But I always said when they said, well, this kid is good enough, you should win state. And I said, not unless the team is good enough.
Ah.
And so, it's amazing. I compare it to picking the best baseball hitter ever. It's almost impossible when you think about it.
Sure.
Because pitchers got better than they used to be, and the batters got better. So how do you compare unless you go back in time and know the difference? But everything varies.
Okay.
So it's something when you think about it. I had kids that were the best at the time, and that's the only thing you can say.
I
Who
see.
was the best at this time?
Okay.
And in what?
Mm-hmm. So if you can't tell me your absolute fastest swimmer, what is it that you tell a 100-yard freestyler at the state meet?
Swim his race.
Okay.
He's been coached and taught how to swim that 100. And you just remind them and take them through the way that they've been swimming it. And tell them that you're faster now than all season. And you should be thinking and swimming the same way because the taper will take care of it.
So you should be ready. Just
Right.
let them know that they're ready.
Yeah.
There you go, coaches. Coach Jepsen says at the state meet, if you're not ready and it's not in the computer, just press the button and it should happen.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree with that. Coach, it's awesome seeing you here at your home. Finally got out here a couple times. And so you always have had some team captains that were always looked up to on a team. And what can you out there just look into the camera and say to your team captains, thanking them or telling them that you helped with our success? How much did a team captain help? Because Coach said his team, if his team wasn't a winner, then the athletes really weren't winners. What can you tell your team tell us that you why you picked your team captains and what success you had because of them? How did that help?
I didn't pick the team captain.
Okay, that's what I wanted to hear.
The team elected him.
Okay.
And I told them before they made the election, this fellow will be in charge of being intervening between you and me. If you've got a gripe and don't want to come to me with it, you go to the captain.
Okay.
And his responsibility is to forward it to me. And that was basically the function of the team captain.
Okay.
So,
how did that help?
well,
Can you tell me an instant?
Works great if you got a swimmer that's dissatisfied in something and you don't know why.
Okay.
And it allows you to go to that captain and say, what's wrong with so-and-so?
Okay.
And he can come in and say,
Here's what's going on.
so-and-so's got a problem.
Okay. Okay. So, Coach always helped us along and kept us moving. I got it why. A lot of times it was because negotiation with the team captain and figuring out actually what was going on. Yeah, kids keep quiet. Well, in this day and age, we miss coaches, great coaches like this, and hopefully he's instilled a lot of coaches to become coaches, and a lot of people that continue swimming. We have a lot of champions out there doing long distance swimming, and I know you had a national waveboarder that used to swim for us, right? Or something like that. Mario Fassa.
Mario Fassa. He was the world's kneeboard champion.
Kneeboard champion.
He started he went in the competition after he got out of college on the kneeboard, and they called him Super Dizzy or something like that.
Okay.
And but he was the only person to win all the different events on kneeboarding.
I see.
At the time.
I remember Mario. Yeah.
You know,
He was
Mario,
from Brazil, wasn't he?
Venezuela.
Okay. Oh. And, we had a lot of success. We had some success with some foreign exchange students, and I always learned a lot from them. I don't know why. It just always felt like that. Yeah. What did you learn from the foreign exchange students?
Just that they're just like any kid.
Okay.
They come in there and you let them joke around just like the others, and feel like
they're part of it.
They're a definite part of the team, and I didn't treat them any different.
Yeah.
You don't.
Yeah.
You can't baby them along or whatever. You
Sure.
just do what you can do to the rest of the team.
Just be glad to have them. Yeah. Huh. Hey, it's been great talking to you today.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and we'll do it again. The future is still going on. Hope to. I'm really liking Tennessee and enjoying seeing your little abode here and carrying all the Jepsen artifacts around. Have a good one. Thank you, sir.
Okay, Doug.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Overload, muscles explode for the touch of gold. Let it go. Spirit of the competition, the dedication that touches my soul. The game is pain, result is pride. I will not falter, I will not hide. I will remain until my name is known in the same. With the spirit of letting go, spirit of the competition, the dedication that reaches my soul. My pulse is up, I'm feeling strong. The goal is set on a victory song. I'm staying cool, I'm playing calm. The crowd says that it won't be long.
how was it, when it came down to your last? Well, I don't know. Sorry.
Train to Reign with Dr. Payne. Are you a warrior? 100% just every day. Love y'all. Train to Reign. Victory begins when you believe. Train to Reign with Dr. Payne. Give 100% every day. Give ever 100% every minute. Send me your videos. Send me your championships. Send me your team. I'll come out and talk to your team. I will come out and talk to your team. Call me up. Send me an email. I will come to your team and I will motivate your team. Come on. Come on, champions. Come on, coaches. Let's get it. Let's get it. 100% every day. 100% every day. 100% every day at the championships. 100% every day in practice. 100% just every day. Love y'all. Train to Reign. Victory begins when you believe. Help us give some special needs in school and keep some special needs in school. Buy a Dr. Payne shirt on DrPain2Win.com. Love you. Send me some videos. I'll watch them. I'll do some critiquing for you. Send me a video. I'll critique your video. I'll tell you what you're doing right. I'll tell you what you're doing wrong. Send me your videos to DrPain2Win at gmail.com. DrPain2Win. Send me your videos. Train to Reign with Dr. Payne. Train to Reign with Dr. Payne. Are you a warrior? Train to Reign with Dr. Payne. Look who's back. Thumbs up. Train to Reign with Dr. Payne. Look who's back. Championship focus for an entire season so that you can see greatness and feel it. Because today's practice will make tomorrow's practice a success, and incrementally together the next month, the next 2 months, and then the next season. Start tracking your practices. Start with 1 week. Write down the successes that you had, or the technique that you worked on that made you better that week, or the technique that helped you wipe out all these distractions in your workout. You know, the goals for you is to have a day-to-day, steady, consistent workout that brings you championship focus so that you go home at night and want to come back and be a champion. Are you a warrior? What we're trying to do is a strength program, and this is it. DrPain2Win dumbbell program right here. Stay with me. We're getting fired up. Train to Reign with Dr. Payne. Work on your championship focus and motivation. We're working on your swimmer strengths. Strength, the ability to go longer and taper better. Here it is. The program that is going to take your team to the championships. It's kind of a secret program because it's quick. You can get your kids in and out and get them moving quickly, daily, and working together with 2 people all the way up to maybe 50 with small amounts of equipment. All right, muscular endurance. We need it, okay? Okay, so all you're going to need is dumbbells. So it's easy amount of equipment that you're going to utilize, and each person on this first exercise, there'll be 4 to 5 exercises in each set. So there'll be a set of 5 exercises and another set of 4 exercises, which you can do one group doing one exercise and the other group doing the other exercises of sets and switch. Very easy to manipulate and put into your program. The first exercise, you need 1 dumbbell. Holding the dumbbells right here and keeping your arms completely tight. So as you're walking, you're going to, the front step goes forward and you walk with the dumbbell. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you're going to go backwards walking. The dumbbell moves with the back step. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You're going to do 10 steps. So forward, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. We're going back again. With the back leg, it goes steps back. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There we go. There's your first exercise. One person doing it, the other person resting, and they switch. Okay, the next exercise is very similar. Holding the dumbbell, again, straight arms. And this time it's called a chop. You're going to go down like in a figure 8, chopping down, chopping down. Working on this core. Everything is working on the core. Here, 2, 3, and you're going to move with the steps again. As you step towards it, 1, 2, each step. So we're going to get going with you here, same way we did before, 10 steps. So you're going with the step that's going forward. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then of course 10. And we're going backwards again with the backward step. 1, 2, 3, 4, keeping her straight. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So we go forward and back, and the other student has the other dumbbell, or you can alternate. There it is, our second exercise in the first set of our dumbbell exercises. We have 2 sets of 4 exercises. This is the second one, the chop. Bring it at an angle, really working on feeling the length of the shoulders, building the flexibility, building your core, of course. Beautiful exercise, number 1. This is our second exercise. All right, so this is the last exercise on our first set of dumbbell groupings. And we'll get right into it here. Same exercise, you're holding the dumbbell, only you're holding it over your head. You're holding it over your head. And when you're walking the same way as the step forward goes forward, you're going here. Now this is always built, this is building length, body strength, in length, like swimmers, because swimmers are going off the wall, they're pushing off their backs, their stomachs. We're going forward, back, forward, back, forward, and keeping it tight. We want to keep it tight in here, keeping that endurance, holding it up, and you'll work on whatever weight it is. So I'm going to show you how we're doing this. We're doing 10 again. This exercise, you can feel it in your entire body, all the way down. This is what's great about it. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Of course, going back to the back leg, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. There you go. So always when you're starting weight work, always make sure you check with the doctor, making sure that you're physically fit before you do that. But of course, swim teams are doing that. USA clubs, high school teams, and college teams. Make sure you're ready for this, because these workouts will work you out into championship performance shape. They seem simple, but after you get them implemented into your program, these just simple barbell sets will do wonders for your in-water performance coming off the walls, feeling of getting your body rotating, and because it's working on you at the length. Swimmers always want to work at length here, working on that, and these small weights will do that for you. We gave you our first 3 dumbbell exercises where you only need 1 dumbbell, right? And our next set will be different fashion, but we'll still be using the dumbbells. And there's 4 exercises. So I usually have one group doing this set right here, and then one group doing the other set of pairs, so that they can go back and forth, or you can line them up and have them go in, have them go out. I did this with an academy that I worked at. I had 6 kids going across, doing it back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and they had fun. They were socializing, and they were getting strong. And you know what? You can even just do it on the deck. So it doesn't take any space. It hardly takes any equipment. And this is the DrPain2Win dumbbell championship dumbbell sets. Here it is. So take those exercises and run, or I should say swim. Now these sets are going to take 2 dumbbells, and you'll have a partner, and they will do 6 repetitions for starting. And you can do this with your high-level groups all the way down to your low-level groups. I have no teams, championship teams, that are even getting it down to 9 to 10 years old, with light weights or no weights. But anyways, these are going to work together. We're going to do sets of 6, right? Starting with the lows, right here. Coming down, 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then you're going to rotate up and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? Then we're going to do lunges. 1, 2, 3, all the way down. I can't do it too good. 4, 5, and 6. You'd probably do double that, right? And then we're going to do leaning rows here, way down, like you're in the water. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then you're going to put one hand on the knee and go back. 1, 2, turning it. 3, 4 for the final of your stroke. 5, 6. And then the other side, hand on the knee. 1, 2, turning it. 3, 4, 5, 6. So to go quickly on that, what we're doing here, obviously, we're starting with standing rows here. 1, and squats. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? Then we're going over the head. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Got it? Lunges. Right here, lunge it 6 times. Like that. Keeping the weights balanced. Then we're going leaning rows. Rows. Like because you're driving your head forward. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? And then we're going here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Keeping it locked out. 5, 6. Going to the other arm. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? And then we're just going to hold. A good 10-second hold. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Switch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You're going to reduce it. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And we're there. You got it. There's your dumbbell workout for each student. Between each exercise, you switch off. Between each exercise, your partner goes, and are not using much equipment. You can get it done quickly. You can do it in the hall. You can do it in the weight room close by. You can do it on the deck if it's safe. Make sure you're checking with a doctor, making sure everything is good. Your health, your muscles, your health, your wealth, and you will get some wealth out of this. Some championship focus and motivation here. Hey, it's a great way to get your entire team active and learning weightlifting, but this is great all the way up to your highest level teams. This is Dr. Payne, hoping this brings a value to your swimming program, to your water polo program, to your diving program. It's helping with your core. It's helping with your entire body understand how to get off those walls long, stay lean, and stay in, focused and tight. These workouts are kind of secret. You can use it for your high-level team or your low-level team. I'd like to thank the Munster Swim Club, Joe Wolf and Matt Lee for helping out with these, for teaching this stuff to me, and being champions. So championship, focus, and motivation. But most of all, have some fun out there. This is Dr. Pain2Win. Send me an email. Send me your videos. I'll come motivate your team. I'll come motivate you. Coaches, parents, swimmers, athletes, come see me. Hey, I'd like to thank United States Swimming, United States Diving, and United States Water Polo for coming to our site, and Oliver Leroy, who with his great blog, we're always listening to you, sir. Hey, get your swim book from Oliver Leroy, and it's called the Swim Book. It helps you chart your workouts through an entire season. There it is. Log your practices. This is Dr. Payne, signing off. Train to Reign with Dr. Payne. But first of all, have some fun out there and enjoy.